In this episode, we would like to share the nature of the research we have been doing for the last 25 years. As an example, we are giving the research on the Vastu part of the ancient traditions, called Vastu Shastra. Why is it called a Shastra? Why is the Shastra part never explained? So what is that knowledge which the ancients had, and what is the nature of the research we need to do in order to bring that knowledge back into our life?
In ancient times, architecture was not only creation of a structure to define space, but inherently a three-dimensional sacred form. All cultures took into consideration their understanding of the subtle effects of the environment, both natural and man-made, on the human body.
Today, what modern mathematics and modern science is discovering in terms of fractals, in terms of Fibonacci series, in terms of the golden ratio, it's very interesting to see that people knew all this thousands of years back. There's been a very interesting study of one Professor Kirti Trivedi from IIT Bombay, Powai, who has explained in a very interesting article how the entire design of the Indian temple is based on the fractal, where the smallest part of the temple design contains the whole. So how is it that thousands of years ago people were already aware of these and they applied it in architecture? Our ancestors created forms that were in harmony with the laws of nature, forms that have outgrown time and live in eternity. Theirs was a magic of numbers, a sacredness of proportions and materials, a mysticism of harmonics and colors, a critical choice of the right location and the right moment in time, so that matter and form expressed in an infinite number of ways the cosmic truths and made us experience the multiple attributes of the infinite.
Today, a branch of modern science known as geobiology investigates the principles on which these laws are based. In the late 1970s, a German physician, Dr. Ernst Hartmann, discovered a grid of energy lines emanating from the Earth's surface and circumscribing our globe. This came to be known after him as the Hartmann grid. These energy fields are termed bioelectromagnetic fields, BEM for short. The last 6 decades of research reveal that the radiations from the surface of the Earth, termed telluric, are BEM energy grids of 20 types, which does not include the harmful BEM energy fields of underground water streams, faults in the Earth, and cavities.
When we speak of bioelectromagnetic radiations and the magnetic grids of the Earth, this is based on our research in terms of geobiology that has been going on around the world for the last 50-60 years. And what we need to understand is how geobiology helps understand the principles and foundations of Vastu, which have not been explained. And this is the nature of research which brings both the ancient knowledge of Vastu and the present researches in geobiology together.
All ancient civilizations have discovered in their own ways the existence of these varying BEM earth grids and refer to it by their own names. The Australian Aborigines poetically called them the song lines of the earth. The Chinese referred to them as the veins of the dragon. The ancient Celts as the ley lines. And the ancient Indians called them mandalas. The fact that our ancestors knew the presence of these energy fields is revealed by various structures. The old monasteries in the Himalayas orient the houses and rooms for monks in such a manner that they are contained within the BEM grids in what is normally a neutral zone. The ancient Celts also oriented their buildings with respect to the BEM grids, as is evident from studies of their ancient sites. In ancient India, it was mandatory for the architects to master all the 64 arts, to which Vastu Shastra or the science of building was also a part. The architects used their knowledge of the grids in orienting temples and other structures.
Our Akash Foundation has been doing research for the last so many years into the understanding of how the ancients designed and built their ancient places and sites. Here we give an example of a place called Jinji Fort, which is about 45 kilometers from Pondicherry. And in this place you find amazing examples of how every structure is built on Vastu principles. We have done immense and interesting studies of every structure in that complex. For example, we have a stable here. Now the way the stable has been laid out is based on the understanding of the kind of magnetic grid that exists in that place. Now the way this has been designed is because the animals are very sensitive to these radiations, which are normally negative. But through the construction, through the usage of lime, etc., the whole nature of the grid is changed from negative to positive. Similarly, you find a second example here, which is that of the water tank, where the water is stored for the whole fort. Here also, the entire thing is based on a magnetic grid, and we find that the position of the columns is again on the magnetic grids, on the intersection of the nodes. And because of the structure, because of the materials used, it neutralizes again the negativity of the grid, and the water therefore doesn't have any negative radiations inside. Here is an amazing example, a temple built thousands of years ago. Now if I move with my instrument, I get a reaction here, and I get a single reaction. The reaction is in this direction, moving to my right. When I move to my left, there is no reaction, which means that the grid starts here and goes to my right. Between this and the next grid, there is what we call the neutral zone. If I come here, this column, sets of column are on another grid, which is again a single line of reaction, which is called the normal grid. This side there is no reaction, so this is again the neutral zone. So the entire sanctum portion of the temple comes within the neutral zone of the magnetic grid of the earth. So if you look at this sketch and the sculpture on the column, it indicates that this side is the male side, and this is where the men should go as you come into the temple. And when I check on the body, it aligns for the different zones of the body. And here you have the symbol, which is the Shakti symbol, and that's where the lady should come in.
Research in the Indian subcontinent has revealed that the intensity of these telluric BEM grids is not consistent throughout the day and the year. There are cyclic variations, but these have a fixed pattern. For example, the Earth receives cosmic energy due to very high positive intensities of the BEM telluric grids between 2 am and 5 am every day. This is considered an extraordinarily auspicious time and is referred to as the Brahma Muhurta. Even the popularly followed Rahu Kalam chart in South India and the Chokadiya chart in North India, used extensively in astrological calculations, is based on this positive and negative intensity patterns of the BEM grids. In most ancient religious buildings around the world, the presence of an underground body of water is noticed, as water also emanates BEM energy fields. The classic example is the famous Chartres Cathedral in France, where water currents have been used and created to give the necessary permanent vibrational support. We still wonder how and why they built the water channels at a depth of 37 meters, and why at Chartres the height of the central dome above the ground is also 37 meters. The animals are very sensitive to these invisible walls of the different telluric BEM grids. They panic as they are able to sense the distortions that occur before an earthquake. While most animals avoid the negative zone, ants and cats are found to thrive on negative energies and will always locate themselves on negative grid nodes. Perhaps that is why cats are associated with witches. Although the causes of these variations are still a matter of research, it is amazing how our forefathers had an exact knowledge of these energy fields, their direct impact on the human body, and how they developed the means to manipulate them to the desired intensities for their benefit.
So is there a methodology where one can really test it and test it scientifically? Is it possible that everybody else can also develop this kind of skill, or is it only with certain blessed people that this is possible?
A simple device called the Lecker antenna, named after an Austrian physicist, Professor Ernst Lecker, and designed by Reinhard Schneider, helps detect to a high degree of precision a wide range of high frequencies in the range of 0 to 30 GHz, which is the vibrating frequency of the cells in the body. 6 sensor zones, which help sense these frequencies, have been identified in the body by Professor Rocard of France, who calls them the magnetic identity of a person. With tools like the Lecker antenna, it is possible to study the different kinds of energy radiations and find ways and means of harmonizing and neutralizing them. Yet another equipment to study the energy radiations is the Kirlian camera. What was once deducted by ancient sages through insights and perception is now being authenticated by scientific procedures. Years of research through various experiments conducted by Akash Foundation, Pondicherry, helped perceive what cannot be seen by the naked eye.
Once we had completed this sort of experiments, that day it happened that a lady came in who had been having cancer for a long period of time and had been undergoing treatment at the hospital. In that period of treatment, what we find is that as the treatment was being done and her photographs were being taken through Kirlian, the cancer was not regressing, it was continuously progressing, in which case both what we call the corona and the streamers were getting reduced. Strangely, that day when she turned up, and we requested her to wait for a few minutes before we could finish taking her pictures. 15 minutes in the room where we had cancelled out all the radiations and harmonized the energy of the space. And when we took the pictures, we were stunned to see the entire energy field of the body was back in terms of the corona and the streamers, where months of treatment was not helping the body showed signs of recovery. So this is a very interesting phenomena where we have visual proof to show to what extent the body can by itself regenerate without necessarily going through a treatment.
Generally, people consult a Vastu consultant when they have problem in their life. But Vastu is not only that, it is much more. A child is very safe when he is in the mother's womb. He feels homely, more secured. Similarly, for a person, the more security comes from his house.
Today, if you ask me, I can tell that it's something like proper breathing. We do breathing, but we don't know what is the perfect way to breathe, to live healthy and other things. And in Vastu, it tells us the proper method to live happily. As an architect, I feel I am responsible for someone's life when I am doing a design now. By doing a line, I actually create a healthy body or an ill health.
Even before we take up a project that a person wants us to design, there are a few steps that we need to follow and understand. First, we have to look at the land, the shape of the land, the nature of the energy of the land, whether it's positive or negative, the slopes of the land, the kind of trees and the plants that exist on the land. And then we do what we call a magnetic grid survey of the kind of BEM grids or magnetic grids that exist on the land. So once we have all this data together, then only we can start the planning based on the client's requirements, etc. And this is what we teach in our courses, how to go about right from the pre-planning to the planning and construction stages.
While creating a new structure, several factors need to be taken care of in establishing the right energy levels. The form of the building, its orientation, the symmetry of its door and window openings and their proper alignments, the layout of the different rooms. All these and more are factors that, if considered at the design stage, help the harmonization of energy fields and their effects on the body. Steel reinforcements in columns, beams, slabs, walls create a sort of cage of Faraday effect, acting like a cage that blocks the external energy fields. We could say that we are living in a highly charged environment between two plates of a condenser. It is necessary to establish good earthing for the steel reinforcements so that the ionization factor is neutralized and the body therefore not stressed.
Why is importance given to materials in the concept of architecture? Even on a small piece of marble like a sugar cube size, we have done a test, and what this test shows is that where this mark is, the green mark, is the upper side of the marble, the opposite is the lower side of the marble as it comes out of the quarry. The green line represents the interior part of the mountain, which surfaces are the interior part of the mountain and which are the exterior. Now I'm going to show that if I'm going to put this piece of marble in the reverse way, in the sense that the lower side is up, what happens, you will see. So if we do the mudras, we see that in the head zone, the energy field or the axis is here instead of in the center of the body. The trunk zone is also here. The leg zone is also here. And the entire body is also here. So entire energy system of the body has shifted out. Now I'm changing the orientation of the stone in such a way that the interior of the mountain is facing the interior of the body. And when I check on the different zones, it aligns the legs and the entire body.
Basically, the orientation of buildings according to their form, materials used, functionality, and proportions play a very powerful part in creating either a harmonious environment or a negative environment that affects us physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
For a long time, it has been intriguing me as to why the central courtyard in a Vastu house is referred to as Brahmasthan. And in trying to understand why this place is called the space of creation, we were trying out various things over a period of time, but nothing really concrete turned out as to give a satisfactory explanation to this concept. Finally, came across the concept of marmas. And these are 9 points which touch different parts of the body. And if those points are affected, then it affects directly the part concerned in the body. So, none of these points should be disturbed under the construction scheme of a building. And if these points are affected, then directly that part of the body gets impacted. So, for example, there's a point of hip. If a structure, a wall or a column comes on that point, then you will directly have impact on the hip. In order to grasp this concept of marmas, we marked on the 6 surfaces of a cube all the marma points, and we connected it with the help of a computer. We were stunned when the computer generated a pyramid form at the heart of the cube. This is similar to the actual pyramids which we find in Egypt. This amazing form is the most stable form of molecular structure in nature. When this pyramidal form is placed and formed in the heart of the building, it links up the earth and the cosmic energy and spreads it into the rest of the building.
One need not demolish and rebuild the structures that are not Vastu compliant. Years of research have yielded simple methods of energy corrections.
Dr. Prabhat Podar has found a way to use marbles and copper to correct the energy in the house to make the flow of energy more positive. Just like how we do in meditation. What we do in meditation, we try to remove the negative and replace it with the positive. Likewise, he brings and creates an equal balance of earth energy and cosmic energy in the home. And he also shows us ways and means to harmonize our body axis. So once our body axis is harmonized and the energy in the house is corrected, you find that you're very comfortable in your own home.
For example, this house in Chennai, South India, has a few issues.
The solution is to energetically reverse the land and the property to make it as in the southern hemisphere, where the flow of energy becomes anti-clockwise, as against the clockwise flow of energy in the northern hemisphere.
Our position today is we have manuals of Vastu, how a Vastu engineer has to work, but we don't have a microscopic and theoretical understanding in terms of the cosmic fundamental forces. Dr. Podar made a very significant contribution to the whole understanding of Vastu in that he made clear for the first time that there are 2 classical or canonical patterns of Vastu, or the way space impacts on man, and one he called the northern hemisphere model and the other he called the southern hemisphere model. Now, how did he arrive at this? Dr. Prabhat Podar observed an extraordinary disagreement between the Vastu Paddhati and method in Tamil Nadu and all over India and the Vastu Paddhati followed in Kerala. Now, what is very significant about the geography of Kerala is because of the Western Ghats being present there, the land slopes from the east to the west, whereas in the northern hemisphere Vastu, the land has to slope from west to east. Looking at this, it suddenly occurred to him that, oh my God, this is the universal law.
The ancients have devised a method of redoing the perimeter of your house or the surface of your house in such a way that it can give the necessary benefit to every individual in his life. The effect of the movement of the sun through the zodiac, the effect of the moon, the magnetic field of the earth. So there is a lot of various impacts that are there on the human body, And amazingly, these people have been able to put it all into mathematical formulas. And these set of 9 or 10 formulas are known as the Ayadi calculation and the Ayadi formulas. So far, there's no clue as to how the ancients were able to arrive at these formulas. But when you apply them, it's amazing how it affects our life, it affects our destiny.
Realizing the enormous benefits that right architectural designing has on integral health, wealth and relationships, Akash Foundation in Pondicherry has completed several projects integrating these principles. Founded by Dr. Prabhat Podar and Ela Podar in the year 2000, Akash Foundation is a consultant to various organizations in India and around the world.
The idea is as you go into that space, it aligns you totally. Outside, as you have seen, there are columns. So the column design is based, is inlaid in the marble. So the idea is you walk over it, and when you walk over it, it gives you an electromagnetic bath. So this prevents anything on your body system to be brought into the temple complex or the meditation space. Each orientation is represented by an animal. So the cow in the east represents divine light. Lion in the south represents divine protection. Horse in the west represents divine force. And the north is the elephant, which is divine knowledge.
Well, with a scientific mind honed to perfection and a spiritual attitude inspired by Sri Aurobindo's works, Akash Foundation has set the ball rolling by its extensive research in the field.
Ils ont fait des choses de base simples qui est un peu fait par tous, que Shlagni a déjà fait et d'autres ont déjà fait.
Akash Foundation conducts courses in India and other countries such as Russia, Germany, Italy, France and Kuwait in modules spread over 1 or 2 years.
So long as you can rectify your space and you can protect yourself through that space, you maintain the alignment. It's the space which aligns you. So the whole secret of architecture lies in the fact of understanding the human body, understanding the relationship between the body and the building, and how the building affects us. The whole science of architecture, or the secret of architecture, lies in that understanding which the ancients had mastered. Today that knowledge has got lost. And that knowledge, in order to be able to bring it back, we need to bring it back through the 64 arts and revive that ancient knowledge system by which this entire knowledge can be brought in and helped to master the energies of the body, harmonize it with the energies of the building, and harmonize it with the energies of the universe.
Every art or activity indulged in increases one's awareness of the subtle energies within and without, rendering life as such to be a form of yoga.